Join the conversation.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Sharma.
And I'm Heem Kaur Suraya. And on the show today, US President Donald Trump has declared a stinging 25% tariff on India. And that's not all. He says there would be a penalty for India's continued purchase of Russian oil. How things pan out going forward, that's something we'll be exploring on the show today.
Also on World DNA, talking about Russia, it also has responded to US President Donald Trump's threat of new sanctions. Russia says that it has developed immunity to such measures from the US due to years of experience operating under numerous restrictions. They're hardly phased out of this. We'll be tracking all those developments closely. Let's start with the headlines. This is World DNA.
Well, we're talking to him now. We'll see what happens. Again, India was the highest or just about the highest tariff nation in the world.
US President Donald Trump says the US is currently negotiating with India after announcing earlier to impose a 25% import tariff on Indian goods starting the 1st of August.
Donald Trump announces a trade deal with Pakistan, touting a joint initiative to develop oil reserves in the country. The US president even floats the idea that someday Islamabad might sell oil to New Delhi.
Trump announces a new trade deal with South Korea, setting a 15% tariff on imports. In return, Seoul commits to major US investments and opens its markets to American goods.
Tsunami warnings lifted across the Pacific Rim, allowing millions to return home. More than a dozen nations had issued alerts after an 8.8 magnitude earthquake rattled Russia's far east. Storm surges of up to 12 feet were predicted for some parts of the Pacific.
Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly.
Canada plans to recognize a Palestinian state in September. Prime Minister Mark Carney says the move is necessary to preserve hopes of a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Gaza's civil defense agency says at least 30 people killed after Israeli forces opened fire on Palestinians waiting to collect humanitarian aid. Video shows Palestinians carrying bags of flour and bodies in the Zikim area.
More than 120 flights cancelled across the UK due to a technical glitch. Flights suspended at several airports, including Heathrow, Gatwick and Edinburgh, the peak holiday season.
NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar NISAR satellite successfully launched. Indian Space Agency shares video of the journey showing GSLV F-16 liftoff and satellites separation.
The Indian capital breathes its cleanest July air in 10 years. Data shows Delhi's monthly average air quality index at 79 till July 30th, as city receives regular rainfall on 23 days this month.
Leon Marchand breaks the world record in the 200-meter individual medley at the World Championships. He clocks 1 minute and 52.69 seconds, wiping more than a full second off the previous world record set in 2011. Storm clouds gather over the India-US trading corridor. US President Trump has declared a stinging 25% import tariff on Indian goods.
And that's not all, of course. He also said that there would be a penalty for India's continued purchase of Russian oil.
Now, in a post on his platform Truth Social, Trump asserted that while India is a friend, trade relations between the two countries, US and India, have remained limited due to what he described as excessive tariffs and restrictive non-monetary barriers.
However, just hours after this announcement, Trump said that the United States is still negotiating with India. Trump told reporters that India has one of the highest tariffs in the world, but they are willing to cut it very substantially.
As you know, Prime Minister Modi is a friend of mine, but they don't do very much business in terms of business with us. They sell a lot to us, but we don't buy from them. You know why? Because the tariff is so high. They have one of the highest tariffs in the world. Now they're willing to cut it very substantially, but we'll see what happens. We're talking to India now. We'll see what happens.
India's Ministry of Commerce says that it is studying its implications of the move. New Delhi says that it will take all steps necessary to secure India's national interests.
Now, this explosive move comes just 2 days before a self-declared trade deadline, derailing months of negotiations. India had already rolled back tariffs on key American goods like Harley-Davidson bikes and bourbon whiskey. Talks were advancing towards a broader trade accord, and yet Trump did what he always does: bargain with the bombshell. The same playbook he used with Japan and the Philippines, now thrown at North Bloc.
But India isn't blinking. New Delhi has repeatedly maintained that energy access is linked to national security and that as a sovereign nation, India will buy from a diverse pool of partners, be it Russia, the Gulf or the US itself. Now, while Trump says that New Delhi treats America unfairly when it comes to trade, the numbers show a different reality here. While the US reports a $44.4 billion trade deficit with India, experts point out that the picture changes dramatically when you include revenues from education, digital services, financial operations, royalties and even weapons. And in fact, the US enjoys a $35 to $40 billion net surplus with India instead. And this is according to GTRI data.
All right, to discuss the implications of this, we're now being joined by Gaurav Sansanwal from Washington, D.C. He is a fellow for India Chair, Emerging Asia Economics at Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thank you so much for joining us on World DNA.
Thanks, Em. Thanks so much. Thanks, Sharon.
Let's just begin by, of course, first understanding the implications of this. If there isn't a trade deal, how do you see India-US trade ties evolve? And what do you think will be the practical implications of this?
Well, I think there is no question that the trade deal is definitely delayed. It is not going to happen by August 1, but doesn't mean the trade deal is dead. Because yes, this is unprecedented in that unlike previous times when there have been sporadic tariffs on iron and steel and some other sectors, this time this affects everything. That includes, say, an Apple smartphone manufactured in India. It could include the refined petroleum goods that India sells to the US. It could include generic pharmaceuticals. So it's a wide spectrum of sectors. So in that it is unprecedented. But that's all the more reason why a way has to be found. So there is no other way but to sit and negotiate. Because I fear this is not the final word. If it is being used as a leverage, then we may see some more back and forth from the US president as well. And India would therefore look to still close the deal. And a team from US is still scheduled to go out to India mid-August. So I think, yes, this is a setback. This is an irritant. But I think the deal is still the only way out of this, because this is definitely not plausible or sustainable in the long run.
Gaurav, Trump's back and forth, let me just take it a little further from there. This is right down the regular playbook. Say something which shocks everybody, makes headlines across the world, and then perhaps that is what Trump hopes, that it gets the country to come out and quickly finalize on a deal. But India is not one to be rushed. I think that the entire world knows by now. And even the statement that came out from India last evening made it clear that these negotiations have been on for months and India is not going to get rushed into it because the deadline is approaching. And we've seen Trump push that deadline itself. So everything seems fluid when it comes to the US president, but wants the other nations to kind of come to the line as quickly as possible. As of now, what kind of options do you feel India has to get to that deal as early as possible?
I think there are two things, Shivan. One is that we have to remember that these costs will be passed on to American consumers. So while Delhi is feeling the heat, the costs will actually be borne by American consumers. And so that is the first handle. The longer this goes on, American consumers get hurt in the supermarkets, in the grocery stores. That is one. Second thing is, India has just concluded a fantastic free trade agreement with the UK. And that is likely to give a preferred route of access to UK firms into India. And so US can't be sitting on the sidelines and watching UK get preferred access in India. So that's also going to, I think, play a bit of a role here. So I think the way out of this for India is A, to continue negotiating and continue to obviously work things out at the table. But B, India has obviously been a very open country in the last few years when it comes to signing free trade agreements. We've seen them do it with the UAE, we've seen them do it with Australia, now the UK. And I think that itself, with India opening up its markets to others, but not to US, would continue to, also help, get US to understand that if it wants to not miss out on the huge opportunity that India presents, then it has to negotiate. So yes, it's a leverage, but let's not underestimate the fact that this is not something that's going to affect India alone. It will affect both the countries.
You put it absolutely accurately, Gaurav. Thanks so much for making time and joining us, sharing all those insights. While, of course, this is an irritant and shouldn't be seen as anything more than that, even US would not want to miss out on the pie that is the Indian market, which most other countries are making the most of at this point. That was Gaurav Sansanwal joining us from Washington, D.C. Pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks so much, Shyam. Thank you. Thanks, Sam. Bye.
All right, let's move further. Now, hours after announcing 25% tariffs and additional penalties on India, the US President Donald Trump announced a trade deal with Pakistan.
Now, he started a joint initiative to develop oil reserves in Pakistan and even floated the idea that perhaps someday Islamabad might sell oil to New Delhi.
Well, in a post on Truth Social, Trump stated that the United States and Pakistan are currently in the process of selecting the oil company from the US for this partnership. Trump said that we have just concluded a deal with the country of Pakistan, I'm quoting here, whereby Pakistan and the United States will work together on developing their massive oil reserves. Who knows, maybe they'll be selling oil to India someday.
Now, Pakistani Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar was the first to react to the statement, saying the deal has been concluded. Last week, Dar said that US and Pakistan were very close to a trade deal that could come within days after he met with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And for more on this, a correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report. Listen to this.
President Trump revealed a new trade agreement with Pakistan on social media. He says it involves developing Pakistan's quote-unquote massive oil reserves, with a U.S. company leading the effort, and added that maybe they'll be selling oil to India someday. The announcement comes amid stalled U.S.-India trade talks ahead of an August 1st deadline, and after he announced a 25% tariff on Indian imports plus a separate penalty over Russian oil. But so far, the Pakistan deal remains vague, raising more questions than answers about what's actually been agreed upon. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
All right, now Russia has responded to the US President Donald Trump's threats as well of new sanctions, saying Russia has developed immunity to such measures due to years of experience operating under numerous restrictions.
Well, this statement from Russia comes as the war in Ukraine continues well into its fourth year, and in the latest escalation, a Russian strike on a warehouse in Yazyshev, Kharkiv region killed a 67-year-old man and injured 4 others, with 3 hospitalized in a moderate condition. Firefighters battled to contain the flames at the damaged building, and this attack is part of Russia's relentless strikes on civilian areas, which have killed at least 27 people overnight across Ukraine.
There was an explosion wave. It threw me away. I then came to my senses. I was still on the roof of the warehouse. The roof is made of soft material, and I hit my head on the roof. I bounced off it as if it was a cushion.
Now, Russia continued its relentless attacks on Ukraine despite Trump's threats of sanctions if it doesn't show progress in ending the war within 10 to 12 days. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov stated that Russia's economy has adapted to sanctions and they continue to monitor Trump's statements.
Достаточно долго живем под огромным количеством санкций, и наша экономика функционирует под огромным количеством рестрикций. Вот, поэтому, конечно, определенный иммунитет у нас уже выработан на этот счет. И мы продолжаем фиксировать все заявления, которые поступают от президента Трампа, от других международных представителей на этот счет.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky approved the main principles of large-scale weapons agreements with the US, which is expected to strengthen both countries and their allies.
Today, I also approved the main principles of our agreements with America, between Ukraine and the United States, on weapons. These are large-scale agreements. I have discussed them with President Trump, and I am very much counting on us being able to implement them all.
Now, recently, Ukraine's military intelligence chief Kirill Budanov claimed that Russia is planning to spend around $1.1 trillion on rearmament over the next 11 years in preparation for a potential large-scale war.
According to the official, Russia has launched its most ambitious weapons program since the collapse of the Soviet Union and is mobilizing all sectors of society to support its military build-up. And over to West Asia, Gaza's civil defense agency says Israeli forces killed at least 30 people when they opened fire on a crowd waiting for humanitarian aid in the north of the Palestinian territory.
Now, the Israeli military said its troops fired warning shots in the area in response to the threat posed to them when dozens of Gazans were seen gathering around and in trucks in northern Gaza. In close proximity to IDF troops operating in the area, the Israeli army said, according to its initial inquiry, it's not aware of any casualties in the firing.
However, the director of Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City said that his facility received 35 bodies from the shooting, which reportedly struck about 3 kilometers off the Zikim crossing point. For 8 trucks entering Gaza hours earlier, 14 Palestinians were killed in 4 other incidents, 3 near 8 distribution sites. The Civil Defense Agency said crowds of Palestinians were seen carrying sacks of flour on their backs in the Zikim area of the northern Gaza Strip. And while several were injured and dead people were carrying corpses on their backs and wheeled carts where trucks with aid entered Gaza City on Wednesday.
Now, the UN Humanitarian Agency has said that 4 days into Israel's tactical pause, people were still dying from hunger and malnutrition, alongside casualties among those seeking aid.
United Nations said the conditions for the delivery of aid and supplies are far from sufficient in helping the population through a deepening hunger crisis.
Aid workers in Gaza have not been spared. Our partners report high workloads, burnout, and exhaustion due mainly to the lack of food among frontline workers as well as among caseworkers in mental health and psychosocial support facilities. While the UN and our partners are taking advantage of any opportunity to support people in need during the unilateral tactical pauses, the conditions for the delivery of aid and supplies are far from sufficient.
Meanwhile, the Egyptian army airdropped parachutes carrying aid packages over the central Gaza Strip using 4 military cargo planes.
In other development, hundreds of Israeli settlers marched on Wednesday to stake their claim to the battered Palestinian territory, waving Israeli flags alongside the orange banners of the Gush Katif, a block of settlements dismantled in 2005. The marchers gathered in the south of the country near the border with Gaza, calling for the construction of the settlement in the northern part of the enclave.
Furthermore, Israel has warned Hamas that it will take punitive measures, including annexing Gaza territory, if a ceasefire and a hostage release deal isn't reached soon.
Now, Canada intends to recognize a Palestinian state at the United Nations in September.
Prime Minister Mark Carney announced the move, saying his goal was to preserve the possibility of a two-state solution. Carney said the planned move was predicted on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to reforms, including commitments to fundamentally reform its governance and to hold general elections in 2026, in which Hamas can play no part.
Canada had long stated it would only recognize a Palestinian state at the conclusion of peace talks with Israel. But Carney said the reality on the ground, including starvation of citizens in Gaza, meant the prospect of a Palestinian state is literally receding before our eyes.
Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. This intention is predicated on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much-needed reforms, including commitments by the Palestinian Authority's President Abbas to fundamentally reform its governance, to hold general elections in 2026 in which Hamas can play no part, and to demilitarize the Palestinian state.
Carney's announcement has positioned Canada alongside France. French President Emmanuel Macron has said that his country would formally recognize a Palestinian state during the UN meeting. And Canada's plan goes a step further than this week's announcement by British Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
Starmer said the UK will formally recognize the state of Palestine in September unless Israel takes various substantive steps, including agreeing to a ceasefire in Gaza.
Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas welcomed the move. As per reports, Abbas talked to Carney over the phone and expressed his appreciation for Canada's historic position.
Israel on Wednesday condemned Canada's plan to recognize a Palestinian state at the upcoming UN General Assembly, blasting Prime Minister Mark Carney's announcement as part of a distorted campaign of international pressure.
Recognizing a Palestinian state in the absence of accountable government, functioning institutions or benevolent leadership rewards and legitimizes the monstrous barbarity of Hamas on October 7, 2023. Now, this is the statement that came from the Israeli embassy in Ottawa.
Now, New Zealand's government is undertaking an overhaul of its electoral laws.
This is a new bill that is under discussion in the Parliament, which will limit the voter enrolment deadline. The proposed legislation, which cleared its first reading in Parliament, would end the same day voter registration, a right that New Zealanders currently enjoy. Under the new rules, citizens would only be able to enroll up to 13 days before elections.
The bill also seeks to ban all prisoners from casting ballots and require voting to open 12 days prior to election day. In a move the government says will modernize an outdated system. Justice Minister Paul Goldsmith, who proposed the bill, said the reforms aim to streamline the voting process.
But the proposal is facing fierce pushbacks. Critics argue that the bill is inconsistent with the nation's Bill of Rights, specifically the right to freedom of expression and to vote. The government says the changes are necessary after significant delays in declaring the final results of the 2023 election. The bill must still pass 2 more readings before becoming law, but the debate has already ignited a national conversation about access to the ballot.
And with that, it's time now for a short break.
Don't go anywhere. This is World DNA. Lots more on the other side when we come back. India has refused to play Pakistan in the semi-final of the World Championship of Legends. The players have withdrawn from the match over the Pahalgam terror attack. We'll bring you the latest on that front when we come back.
Also on the other side, chairperson of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, Khalida Zia, is set to contest the upcoming general election as per party's senior leadership. Stay tuned for that.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
All right, welcome back viewers. This is World DNA with him and I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss. Let's start with the headlines.
Intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly.
Canada plans to recognize a Palestinian state in September. Prime Minister Mark Carney says the move is necessary to preserve hopes of a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Gaza's civil defense agency says at least 30 people killed after Israeli forces opened fire on Palestinians waiting to collect humanitarian aid. Video shows Palestinians carrying bags of flour and bodies in the Zikim area.
Well, we're talking to him now. We'll see what happens. Again, India was the highest or just about the highest tariff nation in the world.
US President Donald Trump says the US is currently negotiating with India after announcing earlier to impose a 25% import tariff on Indian goods starting the 1st of August.
Donald Trump announces a trade deal with Pakistan, touting a joint initiative to develop oil reserves in the country. The US president even floats the idea that someday Islamabad might sell oil to New Delhi.
Tsunami warnings lifted across the Pacific Rim, allowing millions to return home. More than a dozen nations had issued alerts after magnitude 8.8 earthquake rattled Russia's far east. Storm surges of up to 12 feet were predicted for some parts of the Pacific.
More than 120 flights cancelled across the UK due to a technical glitch. Flights suspended at several airports, including Heathrow, Gatwick and Edinburgh, amid the peak holiday season.
The NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar NISA satellite successfully launched. Indian Space Agency shares video of the journey showing GSLV F-16 liftoff and satellite separation.
The Federal Reserve is keeping rates unchanged at 4.25 to 4.5%, resisting pressure from President Trump and offering no hint of a September cut. Two dissenting members pushed for a reduction, citing economic risks. And the monsoon session of Parliament witnessed chaotic scenes on Wednesday.
Rajya Sabha was adjourned multiple times during a debate on Operation Sindoor. The debate on the Pahalgam terror attack and India's response continued in the upper house. During the debate, Home Minister Amit Shah hit out at the Congress party over the name of Indian Armed Forces' latest anti-terror operations, Operation Mahadev. Shah said the name was chosen not only for religion.
हर महादेव सिर्फ धर्म का नारा नहीं है। शिवाजी महाराज ने जो मुगलों के खिलाफ लड़ाई लड़ी, स्वतंत्रता की लड़ाई लड़ी, और शिवाजी महाराज की सेना का युद्ध घोष था हर हर महादेव। और ये प्रतीक है हर प्रकार के भारत पर के हमले का, भारत की संप्रभुता पर हमले का और भारत की सीमाओं पर अतिक्रमण के जवाब देने। दुनिया के सामने, देश की जनता के सामने गर्व से कहता हूं कि हिंदू कभी टेररिस्ट नहीं हो सकता।
Foreign Minister and Rajya Sabha member Dr. S. Jaishankar responded to Congress leader Rahul Gandhi's claims on Trump's alleged involvement in brokering a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Listen to this.
There was no leader, nobody anywhere in the world who asked India to stop its operations. This is something the Prime Minister also said. Number two, there was no linkage with trade. No, I'll tell you. So there is no linkage of trade. There was no linkage of trade in any of those conversations. And there was no cost between Prime Minister and President Trump.
जा रहे हैं कि इतने सालों तक वोट बैंक प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए आतंकवाद को रोक।
Now, members of parliament from the opposition walked out from the Rajya Sabha after demanding Prime Minister Modi's reply in the upper house as well.
This was, of course, a reply on Operation Sindoor, and Congress Party President Mallikarjun Kharge called Prime Minister Modi's absence in Rajya Sabha an insult to the House.
Do not disturb the House. सब सदन के मेंबर्स का ये पहले से ही डिमांड थी कि 16 घंटे चर्चा होने के बाद हमको इस सदन में प्रधानमंत्री आकर प्रकट होकर वो अपनी बातें रखेंगे और समाधान जो भी हमने सवाल उठाए हैं, बहुत से सवाल उनको संबंधित है। ये नहीं कि आप कैपेबल नहीं है रिप्लाई देने के लिए, ये नहीं कहता मैं। हम आपको निपटाएंगे, तुम हमारे को निपटाओ, हम खेल खेलेंगे। लेकिन जिस प्रधानमंत्री यहाँ रहते हुए भी अगर इस सदन में नहीं आते तो इस सदन का अपमान है।
And in a tragic incident, 2 Indian Army personnel, including a senior officer, lost their lives, while 3 others were seriously injured.
And this happened when a boulder fell on a military convoy vehicle in Ladakh. The accident occurred around 11:30 a.m. local time. This happened on Wednesday when the convoy was moving from Darbuk to Chongtash in eastern Ladakh. Lieutenant Colonel Bhanu Pratap Singh Mankotia and Lance Dafdar Daljit Singh lost their lives in the accident. In an official statement on social media, the Fire and Fury Corps paid tribute to the fallen, saluting their dedication and their sacrifice.
Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi also expressed grief over the deaths. In a message shared by the Additional Director General of Public Information, the Chief of Army said that the Indian Army salutes the brave hearts who made the supreme sacrifice in the line of duty.
The 3 injured officers are undergoing treatment at a military hospital. Their conditions remain critical. And now we move on to Bangladesh, where Khalida Zia, chairperson of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, the BNP, and former Prime Minister, is set to contest the upcoming general election.
This has been confirmed by a party's senior leadership. The party also said that the elections are expected to take place early next year. Speaking to reporters after a views exchange meeting organized by the district administration,
BNP Vice Chairman Abdul Awal Mintu said the party chief is in good health and will contest the election from Feni Mintu after his talks with Tariq Rahman, the acting BNP chairman and son of Khalida Zia. He has indicated that BNP anticipates national elections will likely occur in early February in Bangladesh.
Khalida Zia returned to Dhaka from London in May after receiving 4 months of medical treatment. Zia has long suffered from liver cirrhosis, kidney disease, heart problems, diabetes and arthritis. The former Prime Minister has now been acquitted in both the Zia Orphanage Trust and the Zia Charitable Trust cases, in which she had previously been convicted and sentenced. She served as Prime Minister of Bangladesh from March 1991 to March 1996 and again from June 2001 to October 2006.
Meanwhile, at least 35 people, including several journalists, were injured after violent clashes erupted between supporters of government advisor Asif Mahmood Shoaib Bhuyan and BNP activists during rival rallies in Muradnagar, Upzila of Kumila.
Both sides blame each other for starting the violence, with Asif Mahmood's followers accusing the BNP supporters of a pre-planned attack, while BNP leader alleges that their activists were attacked by Asif's group aided by Awami League members. Police intervened to restore order and the injured are being treated at local hospitals. And Sudan is facing a possible split, with 2 rival factions declaring governments of their own.
The battle for legitimacy has triggered a global reaction. The African Union has issued a sharp warning to the international community: do not recognize the rival government declared by Sudan's Rapid Support Forces.
Now, Sudan is a nation torn in 2. The army is in control of the north, east and central regions, including the recently captured capital Khartoum. The RSF, on the other hand, holds large parts of western and southern Sudan, where local rights groups claim recent attacks have left hundreds dead.
In a strongly worded statement, the African Union's Peace and Security Council said member states and international community must reject the fragmentation of Sudan, adding that the RSF's self-proclaimed parallel government poses serious threats to ongoing peace efforts in Sudan. The internationally recognized government, aligned with the army and headed by former UN official Kamil Idris, was formed in May this year, but over the weekend the RSF struck back politically, announcing its own government of peace and unity with Prime Minister and a separate presidential council to match.
United Nations officials have called the move dangerous, warning that it risks further fragmenting an already divided country and complicating diplomatic efforts to end the war that began in April 2023.
The African Union also condemned all forms of external interference in the conflict, a clear reference to allegations against the United Arab Emirates, which has been accused of supplying arms to the RSF in violation of a UN embargo on Darfur. Abu Dhabi has repeatedly denied all these claims as the war rages on. Sudanese people reel under the devastating effects. The civil war has now claimed tens of thousands of lives, displaced millions, and triggered the world's largest hunger crisis. Thailand is facing an unusual crisis, lions in living rooms.
You heard that right. Thailand's lax laws on exotic pet ownership have led to a boom in captive lions, not just in zoos, but in cafes, breeding farms, and even private homes. Conservationists are sounding the alarm, saying this trend is dangerous, unethical, of course, and potentially tied to illegal wildlife trade. Take a look. All right, shifting our focus now. The Indian rupee fell to its weakest level since mid-March, dropping to over 87 against the US dollar.
And this was after Donald Trump's announcement of a 25% tariff on Indian imports. The currency has been under severe volatility amid Trump's tariff rhetoric. The latest tariffs add to existing pressure on the rupee from continued foreign fund outflows and global risk of sentiment. The decline followed comments by US President Donald Trump, who warned of a potential 20 to 25% tariff on Indian exports to the US. The tariff threat added to existing pressure on the rupee from continued foreign fund outflows and global risk of sentiment.
Now, despite the sharp fall, market participants noted that the Reserve Bank of India likely intervened to cap volatility in the currency. However, analysts believe their intervention may remain limited in near term given the uncertain external environment. Meanwhile, India was holding off on new trade concessions of an August 1st deadline and instead aimed to finalize a broader bilateral trade deal with the US by September or October. But the recent tariff announcement comes as a setback to Indian officials and exporters.
Adding to the rupee's challenges, foreign investors have pulled out over $1.5 billion from Indian equities in July itself. In broader currency markets, Asian peers remained range-bound while the US dollar index eased slightly. Analysts say the rupee could stay under pressure but may see support if it holds above key levels, with RBI expected to manage volatility rather than drive appreciation. China's massive auto market is hitting the brakes.
After months of intense price wars and aggressive discounts, car makers are stepping back under pressure from Beijing to restore order. Let's just delve into the factors driving this shift. Take a look.
The world's largest car market is navigating a period of turbulence. After months of aggressive price cuts, car makers are now hitting the brakes. Following warnings from Beijing to restore market order, major automakers have pulled back discounts and interest-free loans. Fitch Ratings says this move is likely to weaken demand in the third quarter. Consumers, still expecting further price drops, are taking a wait-and-watch approach. This could temporarily suspend sales and the broader industry outlook, despite the short-term slowdown. Analysts expect a strong rebound in the final quarter. The reason? A key tax break on new energy vehicles is set to expire at the end of the year. Currently, buyers are exempt from a 10% sales tax. But from January 2026, a 5% tax will apply, increasing to 10% by 2028. Fitch says this looming deadline could trigger a rush in year-end purchases as buyers move to lock in savings before the policy change kicks in. In the first half of 2025, Chinese car makers sold 10.9 million petrol and electric vehicles, a 10.8% rise from last year. Of that, EV makers delivered 5.5 million units, marking a 33% year-on-year surge. However, profitability remains a concern. Out of over 50 EV manufacturers, only 3, BYD, Li Auto and Ceres, are profitable. The intense price competition, while boosting volumes, has squeezed margins and threatens the survival of smaller players. Business Bureau, WION World is one.
And India has refused to play Pakistan in the semi-final of the World Championship of Legends.
The players have withdrawn from the match over the Pahalgam terror attack, and this also means Pakistan will go through to the final. The Indian team features former players such as Yuvraj Singh, Shikhar Dhawan, Suresh Raina and Harbhajan Singh. They had also refused to play their group match against Pakistan, which was scheduled to take place on the 20th of July. On that occasion, the Indian players had made it clear that they would not face Pakistan at any point in the tournament.
There was massive backlash on the prospect of the two teams facing off in the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack, which took the lives of 26 civilians on the 22nd of April 2025. The attack was carried out by Pakistan-based terror outfit, the Resistance Front or the TRF.
Now, the WCL is a tournament featuring retired cricketers and isn't really a high-stakes event, but the BCCI is and the BCCI is not involved in this, but the Indian Cricket Board is involved in the matches of the actual national team. And as of now, India and Pakistan are scheduled to face off at the Asia Cup in September. Several Indian citizens as well as members of parliament have called on the BCCI to end all cricketing relations with Pakistan, including relations at multi-team tournaments like the Asia Cup. But as of now, the match will go ahead on the 14th of September. In fact, India and Pakistan can face each other as many as 3 times in this tournament.
That's not all. India is also slotted to play Pakistan in the Women's ODI World Cup in October. No India-Pakistan cricket match has taken place since the Pahalgam terror attack.
And the ensemble cast of Alien Earth, the first television series in the Alien franchise, attended the show's premiere in London.
Teasing a terrifying new take on the iconic characters, here's a look.
In order to figure out if there's a long-form television show in Alien, I had to figure out, well, what is it about, right? It's because an Alien movie is a 2-hour survival story, and a television show is the opposite. It's a long-form story about characters who don't die.
Most of the stuff was pretty practical. super fun. You know, like working with the things, the creatures. Most of it was all right there, which that's a fun day at work, you know.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of World DNA.
And don't go anywhere. Before we slip into a short break, here are all the climate stories making headlines across the world. News and updates continue on the other side. Stay with us.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Heen Korsura and here's a look at all the top stories that we're tracking for you right now.